Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, June the 21st edition of Track Announcer's Notebook. A belated happy Father's Day to all of the dads who are on the webcast tonight. Hope you had a great Father's Day weekend. And of course, our special guest tonight is CSBK Superbike rider and two-time pro sport bike champion. He's also a amateur sport bike champion with CSBK, and before that, as he came up through the ranks, the Honda CBR 250 challenge champion. So certainly a very strong career so far, and maybe the best is yet to come. We'll get into conversation with Tommy Casas here in a few minutes, but as always, first up, we've got our Nodell's note. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Just wanted to, again, welcome Tommy aboard with us tonight. And in the world of MotoGP, it was Marc Marquez got his first win this past weekend, and it's been 10 in a row that he's won.
At that track?
At the Sachsenring in Germany. Wow. And he was followed in second place, a distant second, by Miguel Oliveira, the Portuguese rider on the factory KTM. And you can see the balance of the top five here was Miguel Oliveira, Fabio Quartararo on the Yamaha finished third, and then Brad Binder on the KTM was fourth, and Francesco Bagnaia on the factory Ducati rounded out the top five.
MotoGP certainly has been competitive with so many different winners. Stuart, I got the feeling that Marquez needed a few races just to get back in the groove and sort of get back up to speed after a very long layoff after crashing at the start of the season last year and having to go through multiple operations. So as much it was something physical that he had to get over, I think the mental aspect of riding at that level, it looks like he's finally there. So we'll see what happens. A long way to go in the championship. I know he's way back in the points. The win will certainly close things up a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see over the next few rounds if he's able to add a few more podium finishes and some more wins to his credit.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely will be building his confidence off of this past weekend for sure. And then moving along into the Moto2 race, we had Remy Gardner. He's won 3 in a row now, Pat, and he's looking pretty dominant in the middleweight category. His teammate Raul Fernandez did crash when the two of them were dicing for the lead, but Remy Gardner basically went on uncontested after that. And as you can see, the results, Aaron Canet finished second, Marco Bezzecchi, the VR46 Academy rider, was third. Fabio Di Gianantonio, he finished fourth, and he's scheduled to be going to MotoGP next year on the Aprilia. And Sam Lowe's rounded out the top five, but as you can see, the point standings here, Remy Gardner has a massive points lead, and he's really in the driver's position right now.
Yeah. Has he signed for MotoGP for next year?
He is. He's going to be. They announced it last round. He's going to the satellite squad, Tech 3.
Yeah, and that is extremely competitive racing. I think surpassed only by Moto3.
That's exactly it. And then speaking of Moto3, Pedro Acosta, he's now 17 years old, but he's won again. And he's really got a stranglehold on this championship. And, you know, each week he keeps impressing. His racecraft is unbelievable. He's always a factor lap after lap after lap, no matter how closely contested the race is. And in Germany, they don't have as much of a drafting scenario to really close things up, but the top 15 were still within a couple of seconds of each other.
Tommy Casas, if you want to unmute yourself and jump in here, feel free to add your 2 cents worth to our Nodell's Notes items. How familiar are you with Acosta? And assuming you've seen him ride, what makes him so good?
Yeah, I didn't watch this past weekend's Moto3 race, but I've been watching all of the other ones, and what impresses me the most is that he's only 16 and his maturity level is really, really beyond his years. He hasn't, I mean, he made that little mistake in Le Mans where he crashed, but he was able to get up and going. So what's impressed me the most is that he's been able to, for his first year in Moto3, being able to fight for wins, win so many races, and not make mistakes and give the other guys the points for the championship, which a lot of the guys that are in the fight have unfortunately either been taken out or made some mistakes. So it's very, very impressive for a kid his age be doing what he is.
How many years do you think before he lands in Moto 1 or in MotoGP?
To be honest, at the rate he's going, I think it'll be quite a fast pace to get there. I just hope that he takes it gradually and not make too big of a jump, because he's still only 16. He's got a big career ahead of him. So I think he should, if he wins the championship, spend at least 2 years in Moto2 before making the jump to MotoGP. So 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Ken McAdam has joined us. Ken, welcome. We'll get to you and your opening round of the SOAR series on the weekend. But we continue on with Nodell's notes.
And you can see Pedro's got quite the commanding lead in the championship, Pat. So he's definitely in the got a stranglehold on this one, and he's going to be tough to beat, I think. But there's still a long way to go. You never know. And then this past weekend was the big kickoff for SOAR. I know a lot of people were anticipating racing here in Ontario. And by all accounts, Pat, the grids were huge. There was lots of activity there, and the races were really well done. And obviously we have Ken here to talk more about it. And I also heard that they have a new track announcer there named Jason, and his son Ryder Brown, who also did a great job as well.
Yeah.
Ken McAdam, first of all, welcome to Track Announcer's Notebook, and congratulations on a great kickoff to your season. I know April and May were pretty trying, having to shuffle the schedule, but you were able to get things rolling this past weekend with the practice day. Did how things turned out exceeded your expectations?
Over the top. I honestly was overwhelmed. It was our biggest turnout that we've ever had in 12 years.
So all-time record attendance. How many entries overall?
I don't know what the entries are, Pat. I just got home a few hours ago, to be honest. I was at the track until midday, so I'm not sure what the exact number was, but we had probably 5 or 6 grids that were 30 to 40 bikes a piece.
Wow.
We had one that was close to 50 bikes. So yeah, it was ridiculous. Like the paddock was completely jammed. It was a full house front to back. And I'm not sure why this is happening. I don't know if this is, we're the first out of the gate. We're the only ones that are probably going to have a full season. People just want to get out of the house. I'm not sure, maybe all of the above. I'm not sure where this is actually going to lead. To be honest, I'm going to have to readjust how I run things, because we muddled our way through this round, and it wasn't great. We did the best we could do with what we had, but quite honestly, I don't know where this is going to go from here. So I don't know whether we're going to, continue on with big numbers for the year, or this was just a one-off. But I have to adjust things. I'm going to have to move my endurance race to hopefully put it on the Friday. I've got to negotiate that with the track, but I think I can make that work. And then that opens up the schedule. We were on track. We shortened the endurance to 2 hours by the rider's request, and we were still on track till 7:30 at night.
What was your weather like there? I know we had some rain in the Toronto area.
It was Grand Bend.
From a weatherman's perspective, Friday, Saturday, I assume Sunday was great.
It was Grand Bend. So we had everything. I think there was a field of locusts that went through, and maybe some snow that overnight. I'm not sure. It was ridiculous. We had everything. It was hot. It was sunny. It was bright. It was windy. It was rain. we had a little bit of everything all the way through the weekend. Saturday's schedule, we started off great. The weather was stunning. Then all of a sudden it dropped 10 degrees and it started raining. It rained for most of the afternoon, right up to the endurance race. Then it dried up again, and it was wonderful for the evening. It rained overnight a little bit. Sunday was good, and then last night it just went nuts again. Obviously, we're off the track, but it was like, the weather's typical Grand Bend. It's all over the map.
One of the folks on the webcast tonight, Pat Barnes, I understand, won his lightweight Superbike Pro class. He, of course, used your weekend to tune up for the CSBK opener in July. Did you see other riders with the limited track availability so far using your sore weekend to certainly go race, but to shake down the equipment for the CSBK National Series?
Yeah, to be quite honest, I'm not sure who's going where. I know the Ottawa riders came obviously a long ways to do our round, so I'm assuming they're going back the other way. I talked to Alan Burns this morning, and he's going up to Calabogie for the Nationals because it's 2 hours from his house, and I'm 10. So who's going and who's staying? No idea. Pat run the race. I mean, I think that field was 41, I think. So it was a good race. It was, he had his hands full. They were beating each up pretty good, all the way through the race, start to finish. So, I'm not sure who's going, to be honest. I know a couple of the pros have said they're not going, so I'm wait and see. Unfortunately, that round turned into a three-way because I had to replace round one, and the only date I could get was that date. So, unfortunately, I had to take that date or lose a round completely, and I wasn't willing to do that. So I accepted the date. It turned it into a three-way round between Calabogie ourselves and Shanaville. And excuse me, to be honest, I think most of the riders are going to go where they're close, to be honest. I don't think you're going to see big traveling. A guy that's living in London is likely not going to drive to Calabogie. They're just not. Same as the guy in Montreal is not coming to us.
Right. Ken, you mentioned you were almost overwhelmed with the turnout of riders. Where does that size of the entry start to become an issue, and how were you able to sort of stick handle and work through it, other than having to run way past 5 or 6 o'clock at night?
Yeah, it was really, the whole thing was a problem. I mean, it's a wonderful problem to have, and it's a problem that we haven't had in Canada in many years. So I'm not complaining. Please don't take it that way. But it was one awesome thing to overcome. With those kind of fields, quite honestly, in that track, especially that configuration, we're really limited to the size of the track. And so, I cap it at 33, so 11 rows of 3. That's my own personal cap on it. And I had to split the 600 heat, the amateur 600. We were way over that. I think we did 19 and 17, something like that, or 19 and 18, something like that. Attrition brought us back so we could run a single final. We were a little over the 33 for the final, but at least we could get it in that way. The other ones I did 2-wave starts so that I could split the heats up. One time I think we had 59 bikes on the track, so I had to split the heats, just like split the starts and put a big gap between them to try and give some room. Unfortunately, especially on our Saturday schedule, I have no time. Like, I can't add races. I seriously have no time. I run off 14 races, take a quick lunch, and then we do a 3-hour endurance race, and I'm usually done at 6. So we would have been done at 8 had I not had the riders agree to cut it to 2 hours instead of 3. So, again, it's, I'm not complaining. It's a crazy problem to have, but I just didn't see it coming. So, I've got to readjust how I do things. I don't expect next round we're going to see that same kind of number again.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
But the feeling I'm getting is, we're still going to be significantly higher than we normally are. So I have to look at the data I have and respond to that, and then we'll see where this goes. I honestly don't know. I'm kind of stunned by the whole thing myself.
Okay. Again, for those who have joined us tonight, if you've got a question for Ken McAdam or for our special guest Tommy Casas coming up, jump into the Q&A and send us through your question, your comment, your suggestion. Ken, as you look ahead to the July 10-11 weekend, I would think there's no way the entry is going to be nearly as big as what you had this past weekend, because there is the Super Series kicking off at Shannonville. There's CSBK as well as the Pro 6 GP Regional Series. Any thoughts in terms of the way the schedule and the classes are right now? Do you anticipate any changes there?
Oh, the whole thing will be changed. I will be on the phone first thing tomorrow morning and talking with Paul at the track, trying to get it organized. No, it's 100% going to be changed. There will be a drop. For me, on my end, I don't see it as significant. We're not going to lose a ton of riders. We never do. We never lose a ton of riders to either series. Most of our people are in the West End. We pull a lot of the U.S. Obviously, they can't come right now. But, you know, if you look at the geography of where our riders come from, there's not a lot of riders that come from the eastern side of Ontario. They just don't. We had some this round, so I suspect they won't be there. I know some won't. I spoke with Alan Burns this morning. But for the most part, it won't really affect us a lot. It never usually does. Mossport will lose a few, but I know some of the pros that I spoke to, they're not going. They're coming back. So I don't know who's coming, who's going. I guess we're going to see. To be honest, from my end, I just have to prepare with what I know, because I can't afford to do another weekend like what we just went through. You know, we got through it. My staff was insane, worked, and they did a great job, but none of us seen this coming. So, you know, I don't suspect it'll be the same, but I don't see it dropping a ton either. So I guess we'll wait and see where it goes.
Well, Ken, fill us in about the change in your track announcer there for the Silver Series.
Oh yeah, Jason.
Yeah, Lindsay Thompson was there for quite a number of years. Who's your new voice on the public address system there?
Yeah, he's a fellow Jason Brown. He's out of London. He with his son. He raced back in the day. I think he did some amateur stuff. You know, not a lot, but he's, you know, really enthusiastic on the sport, and he'd never done it before. So he wanted to give it a whirl. I had to find a new announcer, and I gave him a shot. I said, hey, give it a go. See what you think. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't. You know, we'll see how it goes. He did a stellar job. Nothing but compliments all the way through the paddock. He let a couple MotoGP teasers go that people didn't appreciate, but other than that, everything was good.
Okay, that's great. And is Lindsay officially retired?
Lindsay's officially in Nanaimo, BC. So
okay.
As far as SOAR is concerned, I'm assuming yes. Although, you know, Chris Van Tolberg was at our race and he lives out there too. So who knows? Maybe we'll see Lindsay again, but at the moment he's moved out to BC and he's retiring, at least from SOAR.
Okay. Well, Ken, congratulations. In spite of the record turnout, you were able to get all of the racing in on the weekend, and wish you the best for the rest of the SOAR series. And I'll try to get down there before the end of the season to catch at least one of the rounds. Shannonville's got a new announcer for the Super Series, some guy by the name of Pat Gonsalves. I think he'll pass the audition. And so, yeah, July 10, 11, I think it'll be a record number of road race events happening on that weekend in the history of motorcycle road racing in Ontario. 3 venues, 4 series, all running on the same weekend. And I guess riders are going to have to make the call as to where they go and race that weekend. But all the best. We're going to let you go so you can start working on that new schedule that you're going to have to put together.
Thanks, Pat. Actually, I need to work on some sleep. It's been a
Okay.
tough weekend, and I just got home.
All right. Congratulations again, and we'll catch you later.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
All right.
Ken McAdam with SOAR coming off a very successful opening round, and I don't see any Q&A there. Comments, Stuart, so we're going to go right to our special guest tonight, Tommy Casas. Tommy, back when you were starting, there weren't all these options or choices for motorcycle road racers in Ontario, but there certainly is now with SOAR, the Super Series, the brand new Pro 6 Cycle GP Series, and of course, where you're going to be racing this year in CSBK.
Yeah, Pat, that's it's quite the field of racing going on. So it's I think it's pretty neat because everyone has their own approach to the racing scene, right? Where some of us want to try to excel in the national level and really try to push ourselves against the biggest talent in Canada. Some people just want to go out and enjoy their time, have a good light weekend, and just get out on the bike. So I think having those options, it's different pressures for different weekends and different styles of what you want to do with your racing. So I think it's pretty neat to have a choice, and it's pretty good to see that they had a good turnout this past weekend. I saw some pictures, and the paddock looked absolutely packed. So kudos to Ken for making it happen.
Yeah. Tommy, let's go back to the beginning. How old were you when your family came from Bogota, Colombia to Canada?
Yeah, so I was 9 years old, and then I think I was 10 years old. I can't even recall fully, but yeah, about 10 years old when we first made the big move to Canada, and we kind of left everything behind and made the big jump towards a better future for ourselves, and it's worked out pretty well so far. Obviously, the biggest challenge is always the changing culture and language, but we've managed to adapt pretty quick to it. When we first came, it was actually my older sister who spoke the most English, so she was kind of the translator for the family. And obviously, my parents were the ones that English was a little tougher for them, but they're doing pretty good now, and we really enjoy Canada, and we've managed to make a good living so far.
Now, Tommy, before you even immigrated or your family immigrated to Canada, you'd already gotten onto motorcycles. You were racing motocross. How high a level was that motocross competition in South America, and I assume even some races in some of the Latin American countries?
Yeah, I started riding, but my dad used to ride motorcycles when he was in his 20s, and so that's kind of where the passion grew, just being at the track, seeing him ride. And they never really had in mind to put me on a bike, but once Dad saw how in love I was with motorcycles, every time I would see one as a kid, him and his friend ended up getting me a PW50, and I was about 4 years old when I got started. And yeah, I made it up through the ranks up to 65cc, and I raced the national series. I won a couple regionals and a couple nationals, and the biggest challenge, the biggest races I did was Latin American championships, and I raced in one in Colombia and one in Ecuador, and I finished second for the one in Colombia, and then the one in Ecuador I didn't do as well. But no, the level's really high. When you bring talent from different countries, you see the different terrains they ride on, all that stuff, and it was pretty high level. Not as intense as the motocross scene in Canada and the United States, but we definitely had some really fast riders, and it was good fun growing up. I think it was a great base towards road racing and switching to the asphalt.
Right. Now, you began road racing on a Honda CBR 125 at Shannonville in the Super Series. I think you were maybe 12 or 13 at the time. How did that all come about where you ended up at Shannonville and started your road racing career there?
Yeah, so we moved to Canada when I was about 10 years old, and obviously it was a big change, and we didn't have going back to racing or motorcycles anywhere in the horizon yet. So I played soccer for a few years and just went about things, and then my dad eventually he found out the race super series online, and he got in contact with Chris Chappelle, who was actually the one that helped us make the first connection and get started in the road racing kind of thing. And so we showed up one weekend to race, to watch the races, and Chris introduced us to Franklin Dominguez because he was the only one that could speak Spanish, and we didn't have that much of an English. So he made that connection, and we met up with Franklin Dominguez and Vanessa Dominguez, and we became really good friends. And with them and actually the Nesbitt family, that's how I was able to borrow some leathers, borrow a bike at least to get going, and I did the race super series school to get my license. And it was actually Kenny Reedman who took me out on my first few laps when I did the school. And yeah, I ended up doing the CBR 125 regionals. I was 12 at the time, and then for the following year I started in the nationals once I was old enough to be able to partake in them.
Right. And then I think that first national series, you ended up third in the championship and ended up winning it the following year. How steep was the learning curve going from the 125 to the 250?
It was pretty steep because I had only had a year under me, and I was like, the very first time I did the school I was only 11, and then I turned 12 to do the whole regional series. And so I was still very, like, the first time I got on the bike, I needed help to actually be on the bike because I was so short. And I didn't have road racing experience, which was the big difference. At least I had motocross experience, which really helped a lot. But the 250 wasn't a whole lot more, luckily, but the jump was still a little bit aggressive for my age anyway. And it was a great racing, considering we all had the same machinery, and it was really just down to racecraft. And I think the 125 and the 250 is where I developed a lot of my racecraft, because we had no choice but to plan things out because we were all on the same machinery.
You mentioned the Nesbitt family. You and Stacy came up through that Honda CBR 250 championship together. Were very, very close competitors. And then even when you both went on to amateur sport bike, you were battling for championships throughout. I haven't talked to Stacy in a long time. I assume she's retired from road racing, as far as I know. What was that situation like? And I know you became obviously intense competitors, but also good friends off of the racetrack.
Yeah, like I said, when we first began and became friends with Franklin, we met the Nesbitt family because they're really close friends. And actually, the TBR 125 that I bought was Tony Nesbitt bike, which is Stacy's sister. And they helped me a lot in the beginning through, like, we did a few trips together to the races, especially Nova Scotia. And the first year in the CBR 250, she got the best of me. It was my first year. I still didn't have quite enough experience, and I crashed twice. So she won that championship, and she moved on to the amateur 600. And then the following year, I won the 250 Cup. And then in 2014, we were back again head to head in the championship for the amateur title. So it was pretty neat to have her as a friend during those times, and also as a competitor. And in the amateur 600 class, we actually ended up racing for the same team, the OCM team. So we shared a lot of time on the road and at the racetrack. So it was a little bit difficult at times, just because that when the helmets come on, no one's your friend, right? You're going to race, but it was definitely a good relationship, and we enjoyed it.
Okay, we're going to move on to amateur sport bike 2014, and you you win that championship. As much as it was a bit of a move up from the 125 to the 250, once you got on that 600, that must have been a even bigger learning curve for you.
Yeah, that was a massive jump curve, especially because I didn't even hop on an SV on the transition. At the end of the 2013 championship on the 250, I was still 14 at the time, and I borrowed Vanessa Dominguez's GSXR 600 for the first time. And that's when I first got on the 600. And all I can remember is, everyone's telling you, be careful, take it easy. And I got out at Shannonville, and I was only about quarter throttle, not even half throttle by the time I got to the hairpin. So the first few corners, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this isn't as bad as people say. And then the second I get out of the hairpin and I open up the throttle, that's when it all kicked in and I got pushed back, and I was like, okay, now that's a 600. So it was definitely a big jump again, because I didn't ride on an SV prior to that, but I was lucky enough to get the hang of it pretty quick, and I had a successful and awesome year. By the end of it, I felt really, really comfortable on the bike.
So 2015, you're a rookie pro rider. You're the Brooklyn Cycle Racing Pro Rookie of the Year. I think finished 5th in the sport bike class. Again, another step up, going from running with the amateurs to run with a lot of talented pro riders, the best in this country. Were you intimidated at all, or what was it like trying to build confidence in yourself that you could run with the other top riders in pro sport bike?
It was tough. We after 2014 racing with the OCM team, we were set to race the 2015 rookie season with them, and unfortunately last minute kind of things broke apart with the team, and they didn't quite have the support. So we scrambled everything last minute to get to the races. And actually Calabogie was the first round that year, and we managed to, within a period of 2 to 3 weeks, get everything ready for that weekend. And everything happened so last minute that I didn't have too many expectations for that first round. Obviously by the end of the season I wanted to at least be fighting for a podium position. And I hadn't ridden anything prior to that weekend. And so I showed up, I did the first practice session, and I ended up crashing in it. And so it started off bad. And then I qualified decently. I think if I recall correctly, I qualified 11th or so. And it was the start. It was the start that really made me realize that, okay, this is the next level. In the amateur 600, I had qualified near the front and got a good start. But coming from 11th, I got a pretty decent start. We got through turn 1 properly, and then it was turn 2 that it was everyone was just going for it, trying to get the position so that they can get up to the front as quickly as possible. And I remember being intimidated at that point. It was like, whoa, now this is the pro level. And eventually I settled into a rhythm, and I think I ended up battling that race with Louis Rafa and actually Franklin Dominguez. I think those were the guys I battled through for that weekend. And if I recall correctly, I got the best of both of them. So I can't remember what I finished. I'm maybe 8th. I honestly can't recall, but that weekend was the weekend that I said, okay, this is the next level. And
Right.
From there on, I just kind of took it as a learning curve.
And you end up finishing 5th in the championship as a pro rookie. The following year, with some experience behind you, you finished 3rd. And then the following season, you win the first of back-to-back pro sport bike championships. Now, it's tough to win one of those, much less 2, but you were able to accomplish that. And I think it was the first year you won the championship. Yamaha sent you to the Valentino Rossi camp. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and was there anything where the light bulb went on in terms of learning either a new technique or something physical or mental that you're able to garner out of that camp?
Yeah, the experience was an experience of a lifetime. I still recall the whole trip and how it happened that I got the news. I that winter of 2016-17, I was going over to Brooklyn Cycle to pick up my bike because Rob Egan had been helping me quite a bit, and Matt Fillon from Yamaha was there. And when I showed up, he asked me, "Have you heard of the Master Camp?" And I had seen stuff from it, but at the time I couldn't recall it, and I was like, "No, I can't recall." And when he starts describing what it is, then it kind of clicked in. I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I know what it is. I've seen some videos and stuff." And all of a sudden, he tells me, "Yeah, well, we're gonna be going there this year." And I just remember just big shock. My eyes kind of opened up, and I didn't really have anything to say. And it didn't feel like a reality until I was there. And the whole time I was there, it felt like I was on a cloud. Like we showed up there, and from the second day that was kind of everything was scheduled out, and we started the camp. We were going to the gym, we were riding at his ranch, we did some mini bikes on a go-kart track, then we also rode at Misano on the R3s. So I think the biggest thing that I took away from that weekend was so much experience, or so much all around riding. We were riding on dirt, asphalt, mini bikes. It was a bit of everything that really helped me bring my level up, and especially being it was in May. So it was before the season started. So it really helped me take all that raw stuff from the winter. And what better to do it than with other guys that are racing around the world at a high level, right? I remember the biggest thing that kind of made me realize where I'm lacking was when we were at Misano on the R3s. Because the first session, I must have been close to 2 seconds off pace from everyone else. A lot of the riders, I think, were from Asia, from Indonesia, Thailand, and there was one Australian rider, and they had been riding through the winter, and a lot of them raced on R3, so they were really accustomed to those bikes. So at first session, I was off the pace, and I remember like really beating myself down. But for the second session that we went out, I put it in my head, I'm gonna get out behind these guys and really try to catch on to what they're doing differently to be able to get up to pace quicker. And when I got behind them, it was a bit of everything. The biggest thing, it was the use of track, because in Canada we don't have those tracks with the apex, the rumble strips on the edges. So it was using the track from the very exterior to the apex, and then using all of it all the way to the rumble strips, and also how deep they could brake, and the utilization of the rear brake, which I didn't really use throughout my career. So I got behind a couple of the guys, and really that helped me push myself mentally and physically to try to keep up with them. And I was satisfied with that session because we were all within a second for that session. But I think that's probably the thing that I took away the most from was that weekend, or sorry, that day at Misano. But overall, it was really just being on a bike, being with these guys that have a lot of experience, getting that track time on the dirt, on asphalt, and a little bit of coaching from his academy riders. And Marco Belli was the flat track European champion that was teaching us the stuff on at the ranch. And yeah, when I came back from that weekend, I had built so much confidence in my ability to ride a motorcycle, just because we've ridden so many different terrains, and had been on a bike. Literally, we were on a bike every single day that we were there. So that really helped me bring some confidence into the season here. And when I got back, it was just like, let's do this. It's time to get it done. And I was able to get out there and win that first race, and then that just transitioned onto the next round.
Yeah, and you end up winning those back-to-back Canadian Sportbike championships. Let's fast forward to 2019. You're not only on the R6 Yamaha, but you're now going to try your hand at Superbike racing. Ended up fourth in that championship and second in Sportbike. So a pretty good season in 2019. But how much was it a challenge hopping from a 600 to the Superbike in terms of getting used to the weight, the power, and just how maybe your riding technique is a little bit different on each?
Yeah, it was quite a jump. After 2018, I did one regional race on a bone stock R1, and that was the weekend where I first got the feeling for a super bike, a proper, full day's worth of riding on it, and the weekend. And obviously the bike, we had stock electronics. All we really had on there was a Hindle pipe and some Dunlop tires on there. So it was quite a more comfortable transition than a full blown super bike with electronics and suspension and everything. But the jump was big. I remember actually back in that summer. Let me just push back a little bit at one of Pro Six Cycle track days in Calabogie. I was out coaching over there, and they had the BMW that they do like test rides for. That was the first time I got on a super bike with Sandy. And I remember getting onto the straightaway, one of the straightaways, and that thing was just like a missile. It was just like, it just kept pushing all throughout the acceleration, which on the 600, I had gotten used to the power, but this thing just, everything was coming so much faster and you're approaching the turn so much quicker. It was quite impressive, the difference in power, even though I had already been racing on the 600 for quite a bit. But luckily the R1, I felt it was very, one of the bikes that was easy to transition from a 600. I think, if I can recall, it's one of the lightest super bikes, and the power curve is very smooth, and you can really get on the throttle at a pretty, like, at a good lean angle. So I think that made it a little bit easier because the front end also is they share the same suspension in the front end, the 2017 model R6 and the R1. So the feeling wasn't too far off, to the point that it really made me feel, you know, I kind of felt at home, to say the least. And then when we showed up to that first national, which was my second time on the super bike, it it honestly just, I just kind of took it. I didn't want to put pressure on myself, and I just took it as it came, and luckily the bike suited me, and I clicked with the R1, and we were able to make rapid progress with it.
And Tommy, I want to talk about 2020 and your decision not to compete in that very limited CSBK series. But before that, I think Stuart's got a question or a comment that's come in the Q&A. Stu?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And the question that's come in for Tommy is, what has he been doing for his off-season training?
Yeah, so I've been unfortunately last year at the end of the season, I had an injury on the dirt bike, and that actually took me out for a few months. But I'm sponsored by Human 2.0, so I do a little bit of they provide me with a program, and I also do quite a bit of running and cycling. And then with Human 2.0, that's kind of my strength and conditioning and mobility work. So I do a little bit of everything. I like staying active and being active, but definitely I lost a few months in at the end of last year and beginning of this year, just due to the injury. And but we're back on track now, and luckily things got extended a little bit farther, so that bought me some extra time.
Tommy, are you 100% looking ahead to the opener at Calabogie in July?
I am, Pat. It's been too long. Last year making that decision not to raise was a tough one, but I think it was the right decision to make. And I got out on track a few times for coaching days, but I didn't get out on my full out like suspension, everything on the super bike. I got out on our second bike that we got, that will be our B bike for this season, and it was only stock. So I only really did about 2 track days for myself. The rest were kind of coaching. So it's been a while since I've been on my own bike built for racing. So I'm just eager to get out on the bike and get out back in the scene and see some of the racing family and get back at it, get back to racing.
Tell us about the team for 2021. I assume you've got two R1s. You mentioned a B bike. Tell us a little bit about those machines and who is going to be part of your crew.
Yeah, so for this season, with the decision we made last year, we were able to transfer some of the support and some of the money we had saved up towards the resources of the second bike, which was really uh, also part of the decision that we made not to race last year, so that we could have a second bike. And so I'll be racing on both the Yamaha R1s with support from Yamaha, and for the team, it's been since the start of my career. It's always been my dad, so he'll be on with the team. He does a lot of the preparation during the off season on the bikes, gets them ready. He strips them down, makes them ready for the racetrack, and between weekends, he checks them over. We'll have Franklin Dominguez help us when he can. He's been behind us for a little bit too since the beginning, and he's a mechanic by trade, so he really knows his stuff. Rob Cusino, who has also helped us since 2017. We'll have Jason Williams, that helped us in 19. And the big addition to the team for this season is Andrew Trevitt. In 2019, unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of the data acquisition and an electronics man to really look out for us, and we were at a disadvantage as far as that goes compared to Jordan, Ben, and some of the other top guys that had someone to care for in the electronic side of things. And so he'll be a big contribution to the team this year, and I think it'll help us make that next step to get closer to the guys at the front.
Well, it'll be great to see Andrew Trevitt back at the racetrack. I had the honor of announcing so many of his amazing 250 Grand Prix races back at the old Shannonville. And of course, his brother Peter was a pretty good racer as well. I haven't seen Andrew probably in about 10 years since he was at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the CSBK National. Tommy, looks like you put together a pretty solid program for the upcoming Superbike season. I want to get in and talk about who you see as the championship contenders this year, as well as yourself. But I think we've got something else in the Q&A. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And yeah, it will be great to see Andrew Trevitt back in the paddock, and obviously a really great 250 rider from the past. I think you'll have a lot to offer Tommy in terms of experience. And we had a question come in, Tommy, just asking if you will have an opportunity to do a Moto America round or two. I know some of the other Canadian riders are hoping to get down there later on in the season if the border's open, just to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get down there. Any opportunity that we get to go down south, just kind of open up some doors and get a little bit more experience. I don't know if we'll be able to make that happen for this season, just because at the moment we only have 2 official rounds down, and the I've gone down to the States twice, and both those times was because I had a successful season that helped me be able to cover some of the expenses to get there, and also from support from some people to make it happen. But I don't think it'll be on the horizon for this season, but definitely it'll be something that we'll make that sacrifice for this season. But for next year, when we're able to have a full schedule here again and hopefully have a good season, we'll definitely plan out to get down there a couple times. In the future, I'd like to get out there and do a full season, but it always comes down to getting the right support behind you to make it happen. As far as the machinery, yeah, I have in 2019, I rode with a stock engine. So the bike was pretty much, it would qualify for a stock superbike race down there. For this season, we have gotten a little bit of engine work done just to be able to compete with the guys at Mosport. You need to have an engine behind you.
So, Tommy, that opening round's coming up pretty fast on the July 10-11 weekend. Do you have any planned track days or where you'll be able to get some time on the two Yamaha Superbikes before the opening round at Calabogie?
Yeah, I'll be out on track actually later this week. I'll be out coaching, so it won't be too much testing as far as that goes. But at the end of the month, I will do a track day with one of my sponsors, I Train K9 at Grand Bend. We'll be having a private track day there, and that's where I'll get to test both bikes and really get the rust off and kind of get some data going and get used to that data acquisition on the bikes. And then again in early July, I'll be helping out at the Pro 6 Cycle School in Calabogie, and then the day after the school, I'll be doing a coaching day, or sorry, a test day for myself, a track day to get some data at Calabogie in preparation for the nationals.
Okay, so it looks like you've got some good track time lined up before that opening round. Right now, the only two official rounds are Calabogie on July 10-11, and of course, the middle of August at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We haven't heard a whole lot, but it does look as though as the Quebec border is open. What are you hearing in terms of additional rounds and rounds being rescheduled and maybe additional races at Calabogie?
Yeah, I think the big holdup was and concern was the border with Quebec, because obviously you can't have a national if you can't have everybody come to the racetrack and participate. So as far as additional rounds, I have heard that that there is hopes to add some more rounds to the series to make it a little bit more complete. But there's still a lot of speculation as far as when they'll be able to fit those in and at which tracks. So hopefully they can, confirm things with everybody as soon as possible so that we can prepare for it. And it'll be good to have at least one or two more rounds to add on to the 2 weekends that we have confirmed.
Now, Tommy, we've got a number of new riders coming into the series. Jordan Royds, who was one of our top amateur superbike riders from last year, he's going to be gunning for Pro Rookie of the Year. We also have Alex Dumas coming in from Moto America and the Stock 1000 series. And of course, Ben Young, who sat out last year as you did. Ben is back with a very strong program. And of course, Jordan Zoke gunning for his 15th Canadian Superbike Championship. How do you handicap the CSBK Superbike Championship this year?
Honestly, I think it's going to be one of the best grid numbers that we've had in a long time. And I think the overall level is going to come up because we'll have a lot of riders that will be able to fight for a podium and fight for a win. With Alex Dumas coming from the States, it'll be interesting to see how he likes and how he adapts to the tracks here, because he hasn't raced here. So it'll be good to have him here. He's had a very successful career down there, but it'll be good to see him ride a little bit back home. And I know Sam Guerin also had a really awesome year for his first rookie season last year with some really fast lap times and consistency. And Jordan will be nice to see how he does in his rookie year. He had an awesome year as well. So I think it'll be challenging. I can't really. Obviously, I'm going for the championship. Ben, Jordan, they're going for the championship. So it'll be a bit of a carnage out there. I think a lot of guys can win, and a lot of guys have the potential to fight up front. So it'll definitely be some exciting racing, and we'll all just have to lay it down on the track and see who comes out first.
Stuart, have we got anything else in the Q&A for Tommy?
No, nothing in the Q&A, but I was gonna ask Tommy myself, Pat, or for Tommy is, do you, besides the championship, do you have any specific objectives in terms of results that you want to achieve that maybe you haven't achieved yet on a superbike? Obviously, winning a race is one of them, but outside of that.
Yeah, obviously the big goals of always the championship, right? But to be honest, this year and after not racing last year, the big objective for me is just getting out there. Getting out there, getting that feeling of being on a motorcycle and being in the race environment, and lining up on the grid and just having a good time. It's been really rough through COVID, and it'll just be nice to get out on the bike and enjoy the time on track, and hopefully get that first win. Obviously, that's the first objective, is get that first win. And yeah, I think those are the small goals, is to have a good time and get a win.
Tommy Casas, as you sat out last year, and as I said, a number of riders made that decision. Did it change your perspective at all on road racing? You mentioned you started university taking kinesiology. How do you balance your love and passion to go motorcycle road racing, and at the same time looking a few years down the road and saying, what am I going to do career-wise? Because there are not too many guys making a living doing motorcycle road racing.
Yeah, Pat, it's as you get older, it gets a little bit more realistic, your situation and your perspective on life. And obviously my dream is still to, if I get the opportunity, try to pursue a career with racing, at least for the remaining years that I have to compete at a high level. But last year really kind of made me think on, the past years, the sacrifice that my family has put into getting me where I am, the people that have supported me so that I can actually get to the level where I am. And we sacrificed a lot, and I just wasn't ready to, you know get out again with the whole COVID situation. And that's kind of what made the decision for me also to make that next step and start my university career. um Last year I worked all summer, extra hours, and I kind of just finished paying some of the debts that I had with my parents as far as racing goes, and tried to save up as much money and make that next step in my life to look towards a career. And I started kinesiology, which is something that I've been passionate for a lot, for a while, since high school. And the goal, I think, will be eventually to do physiotherapy. And if there's somehow a way to connect physiotherapy and motorcycle racing, that's kind of the path I would like to pursue. And help out where I can to try to get more Canadian youth riders up into the higher level of motorcycle racing, not only in Canada but maybe even to the States, and eventually the world stage. Would be nice to see a Canadian rider out there.
Tommy, earlier you mentioned the crew that you put together to run your Superbike program. What about the sponsors in addition to Yamaha Motor Canada?
Yeah, so Yamaha Motor Canada has been a great part of my racing career. In fact, Yamaha Canada and Parts Canada have kind of been my two main sponsors for most of my racing career. They've really made a lot happen. On board for this year, we have iTrain K9, who's he's Jason is the name of the owner, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's a motorcycle enthusiast that's come on board as our third main sponsor. But we've had a number of people, Pat, that have supported me throughout the beginning and still now. And really, the only way to keep going, especially at someone my age, where we don't have a career where we're making a ton of money, you need to get sponsors to make it happen. So Yamaha Canada, Parts Canada, iTrain K9, we have Motul on board for this season. um Pro 6 Heiko, Bickle Racing, Hindle Exhaust, Brooklyn, Rob Egan at Brooklyn Cycle has helped us a lot. Just a lot of people that have been behind me for a long time, and they're really the people that make it happen, and my family, of course. So it's I'm always grateful for their support to be able to do what we do and enjoy it.
Tommy, I see you're wearing the iTray Canine shirt. What does that company do?
So I Train Canine, that stands for I Train Canine as in dogs. So it's Jason has his own training facility, and he's a dog trainer. And
Okay.
so
I may need that. You probably heard my golden retriever barking at me here.
yeah, Jason, he loves animals, and his relationship with dogs is unbelievable. You guys can follow him on social media, and there's videos of him doing the training with the dogs. I remember this one where it's supposed to be like controlling the dogs so that when you have a new person, a guest, they're not going crazy.
Yeah.
And he has multiple dogs from different people, and he takes a whole bunch of balls and throws them into the room, and the balls go everywhere, and not one dog moved. So it's pretty impressive what you can do with once you get into that close of a relationship and understanding the animal. So it's pretty impressive what he can do with his dog training.
Well, it's great that he's helping you out with your road racing program. I'm going to look him up because I think I need some help.
Yeah.
Stuart, I think we may have one more question for Tommy before we wrap it up.
Yeah, just come in from Nathan Asland, and he's just saying that he's looking forward to seeing Tommy back on track and looking for some excellent results and a strong championship run from both Tommy and the team.
Awesome, Nate. I really appreciate it. We hope to see you out there on track, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you and see that great smile that you always carry on the track with your love for motorsports.
Yeah, the Swede, always good to see the big Swede at the racetrack.
Yeah.
Tommy Casas, I want to really thank you for coming on board tonight and talking a little bit about your career and your plans for 2021. I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll get to see you at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park with lots of fans around the racetrack come that middle weekend of August. But all the best at the opener at Calabogie on July 10 and 11.
Thanks a lot, Pat, and I just want to thank yourself and Stuart for the invitation. And I've watched a lot of the podcast, so I think it's pretty neat what you guys are doing, and hopefully we'll get to see you guys and some spectators trackside.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. Stuart?
Yeah, that would be the plan. I hope we can get out for sure for Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as well. But also, Pat, I just wanted to bring up, we didn't really get into it in the Nodell's notes, but I've had a lot of people reaching out to me regarding the VRRA and the potential for the CTMP round, the Vintage Festival, being canceled. But I know there's been a lot of people reaching out, trying to get the registration numbers up. So maybe that's a conversation we can have in the upcoming weeks. I know their deadline's next week. So if anybody's out there considering the Vintage Weekend, please make sure you get signed up because they need the numbers.
Yeah, indeed. And the announcement, I think it was about a week ago, that the opener at the Super Series at Shannonville, July 10 and 11, they're going to be adding a period 1, 2, and 3 class. And then same weekend at Calabogie, I think there's period 4 and 5 and some other classes running in conjunction with the Pro 6 GP series. So vintage racers do have some places that they can go race, but it would be nice if they can put together their traditional highlights of the season, the Vintage Festival at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in early August, if they can get the entries up. So on that note, we're going to wrap up this edition of Track Announcers Notebook. Again, our thanks to Ken McAdam with SOAR, Tommy Casas, and to my colleague and co-host Stuart Nodell. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Another big weekend of racing coming up around the world. Of course, Moto America heads to the Pacific Northwest for the run at the Ridge. And for this guy, I head down to Shannonville for not the Super Series, but for their SMP Cup, a big car racing weekend down there on Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll be back for that big July 10, 11 weekend with the opening round of the Super Series, when all of the other racetracks will be hosting motorcycle road racing. Have a great week. Stay safe, and we'll see you back here next Monday night, June the 28th. Tommy, good night.